everyone. Welcome to the Light Gate. We're coming to you live this beautiful Monday night on August 26, 2024, from the beautiful city of New Orleans at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 AM FM. Oh my God, I went the wrong way. And the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We have a really cool show tonight. Our guest is on his way. He had a little bit of a issue with daily things that goes on with him, and he will be here at 20 after, hopefully, or no later than 30 minutes after. And I know you will know who it is. Anyway, so what we're going to do is talk about things that are going on. If y'all have a couple questions you want to ask until he gets here, that's great too. I'm going to turn it over to Preston. First thing we want to talk about is I want to publish a notice about his book that he has out that I want y'all to consider reading. It is Not From Here, Volume 5. It's very cool. It has an Anunnaki guy on the cover that was done by his sister-in-law, the beautiful Kisara. And let's go with that. Go, Preston.
All right. Thank you, Dolly. Thank you guys for joining us for yet another episode 70. Can you believe it? Of The Light Gate.
Wow.
I'm your host, Preston Dennett. I've written a bunch of books, as you know, and I'm also, I guess you could say, a contactee. Not quite to the extent my lovely co-host Dolly Safran is, but definitely have had UFO experiences. Dolly Safran is, of course, my co-host, subject of the book Symmetry, and we are working on a sequel as we speak. Super excited about it. In fact, recently Dolly went and spoke in Virginia, and it was very cool because she laid it out in black and white, said some things that she's never revealed before. It's a big story, so I think you can actually find that archived somewhere. I forget where you look.
Go to www.transitionaltalks.org and it'll all show up.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. Virginia is a beautiful place. We went up there together and had all kinds of fun. But yeah, our guest is on his way, and we'll get to him in a second. But you guys know I love to say hi to you all and just get reacquainted each week.
Definitely.
Because, I always get a little bit nervous doing the show, but with you guys there, knowing that, you're our friends makes it so much easier. So let's see who we got in chat today. And let's see, it looks like the first person in is Olivia Trevino. So hi, Olivia. I hope you're doing well. And we have Cherie. I have great respect and admiration for you both. Heart. Oh, thank you, Cherie. I truly appreciate that. I'm familiar with Dave Scott. Yes, he is our guest, as you may know. He is amazing guy, very popular in this field, and has a huge show, much bigger than ours, I think. But we can talk about that.
I absolutely admire Dave. He's one of my favorite people in the whole world. Honestly, he's an awesome person.
He's a sweet guy. He's a teddy bear. That's what he reminds me of. So from New York, awesome. Okay, who else we got? Scuba Maru. You came in early. Thank you. Sandra. It's always nice to see you, Sandra. Hope you're doing well. We love you very much. Blind Psychonaut says good evening.
Good evening.
Got here. This time I get to take my time, Dolly.
I know.
I'm not going to waste too much time because it looks like Dave just popped in.
Oh my goodness.
So we'll be getting right to it then. But who else we got here? We got Jan.
Actually, I'm going to bring him in and he can listen to you do this because he does it too. Hi, Dave.
Hi, how are you?
We're good. Preston is talking to the people in our chat real quick.
Oh,
so
very nice.
We thought you'd enjoy that too. Yeah.
Step out if you want to continue that. But
I'm kind of copying you, Dave, because I love it when you do it. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I hope that's all right.
Lots of good UFO stuff going on right now.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I've
Yeah,
heard.
we'll get right to you. So let me just whip through this real quick. I thought I was going to have all kinds of time, but you made it on time. So thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
So let me just whip
Appreciate
through
you
this
guys.
real quick. Chris, Mr. Catfish, Teresa Levine. Hey, Rat Food, feed your ducks. That's a good idea. Oh, and
Yeah.
Jen, get that house clean. And get ready to move. Namaste. We love you so much. Can't thank you enough, but we will try. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Who else we got here? Louise. Greetings from New Jersey. And
You, Louise.
Alex Newberry. Yes, he is on the air at 9 p.m. Thankfully, that's in another time zone. So we're making him work hard tonight. Fly Dream Media. Who else we got here? Penny Coons. Super excited about Dave Scott. Yes, me too. Going to talk about Sasquatch for sure. And Kaj and Ella Listar and the Owlman. And I better get ready. And Patrick. Hey, Patrick. Very
Oh,
cool.
wow. Hi, Patrick.
Peak and Fun Talk TV. Oh, Susan Alloway.
Yeah.
Always love it when you join
Yeah.
us. I love you so much. Walking Trees. Ruth Kleiber. How you're doing, CT guitar guy. You know, I am going to get in trouble because it looks like I've got a long list of people here still to say hi to. Becky and Matthew and Brown Dwarf and Olivia. No message. Sup, Preston? I'm doing good now. All good. I'm glad to hear it. Catherine Jones. Who else we got here? Tammy Hamui. In the middle of reading Symmetry and loving it.
Oh,
How
cool.
about that, Dolly? Book is still selling well. It's been 2 years now, and copies sell pretty much every day, so that's awesome. We got Jim and Making Bacon and Woo Riders Dig and Addicts Martin and Star Orchid. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
For your absolutely generous super chat donation. Doris the Chicken just found you from Vetted. Yes, I was on Vetted. I was on the news, and it led to quite a bit of exposure, so that was fun. And okay, I'm better just get started here because I will get in trouble. A couple more, Dolly. Woodland Goblin, White Dragon, Tim Houston. You are a talk star. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Dave Rowe. From Reno, Nevada. Gaetano Zorzi. You guys, I can't say hi to you all tonight. Our guest is far too important.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, but I do have to give Anderson
Go
Glenn.
right ahead. I got time.
Okay.
Yeah, but I want to hear you, Dave.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Anderson Glenn. That is so
Oh, my
amazing.
God.
I love
You just paid for my new microphone. Thank you. Oh, my God. I ordered one on Amazon, and it's coming Wednesday. So y'all hear me better.
Okay, well, let's just get started because our guest is amazing. And pull up the banner there and read his bio because I learned a few things from your bio, Scott, but I did not
Thank
know. All right, yes, tonight we are absolutely delighted and honored and frankly amazed to welcome Dave Scott. He's a UFO, paranormal, and Bigfoot experiencer and researcher and more. He is the creator and host of Canada's Spaced Out Radio, which runs Monday through Friday nights at spacedoutradio.com, one of my favorite shows out there. He's a former radio journalist. He graduated with a diploma in broadcast communications from one of Canada's top broadcasting schools, BCIT. That's way back in 1998. And he spent nearly 10 years in radio, mostly in sports, before leaving the field to pursue other interests, which are probably much more interesting. Dave's personal quest into the unknown started in December of 2011 when he had contact from what he calls the angel of death that he saw in his mother's eyes, which led to his first channeling experience. We're going to want to hear about that, Dave. After this incident, Dave's personal experiences started becoming more frequent. He's had paranormal experiences. Premonitions started coming true. A Bigfoot sighting with two of the creatures within, wait for it, 100 feet. That's close. UFOs started appearing anytime he wanted, even though David had no idea what summoning was. Guess you figured it out. Personal sightings of 5 ET species, one who he's nicknamed Carl. On November 30th, 2014, Dave launched Spaced Out Radio. Dave's near decade as a journalist helped him craft a style of interview, making it comfortable and personal for his guests and listeners alike, something I can absolutely attest to, and I know Dolly can too. Dave looks at himself as one of the only trained and experienced radio journalists who is also a multiple experiencer of the unknown. And yeah, you can join Dave live from 9 p.m. to midnight Pacific every weeknight on Spaced Out Radio. The links are in the show description, so definitely check out his show if you don't already know it. If you don't already know it, I'm not sure how long you've been in this field, but probably not very long. Because he's huge in this field. And both Dolly and I have been honored to be on his show before. And now we got you, Dave, on the other side of the table in the spotlight. I'm so excited about it. It's about time.
I just want to say
story about it.
I just want to say a big thank you. I mean, Preston, you and Dolly are the reason why I continue to have not only a friendship with you guys, but continue to have you on is not just because of your knowledge, not just because of everything that you guys have learned over the years. It's because you're good people. You're nice people. And you guys are doing what you're doing for the betterment of the community. You're not there to stir up the crap. You're not there to judge people. You let the evidence kind of go where it goes, and then you write about it, you broadcast about it, you do everything about it. And I really appreciate that, because there's so many people out there right now who you have to interview or you want to interview, and they are so dedicated to their own thoughts and their own area of what they feel is expertise, that you can't have an open-minded conversation with a lot of people anymore in this field. So congratulations to you two for being amazing. And you guys, anytime you want to come on Spaced Out Radio, you know, all you have to do is say, hey man, can I come on? Be like, yep, let's bring them on.
Same here. That's right.
Very
That's
cool. Right. Yeah, well, we're both huge admirers, as you know, because always doing your show is easy. Sometimes it sucks the energy out of me doing other people's shows. Not with you. I come back like, oh, that was fun.
Energized.
So, right back at you, Dave.
Well, I think one of the big things is that people don't realize is podcasting and YouTube channels has become so popular over the last 5 years or so. I think what happens is, because most people who have these channels are not trained journalists, but they want to be hard hitting, that they think you got to be a jerk to the guest. That you know, I've often seen, even in my own chat room, why don't you ask the guest tough questions? Well, number one, my focus of the show is for the experience. I want to know the experience. But if we do have to ask tough questions, there's a way to ask a tough question without sounding like an a-hole. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it goes right under the people's noses. I've had people, like when I interviewed Lou Elizondo a couple of years ago, say, you didn't ask him any tough questions. Really? I got out the fact that he pretty much all but stated that he had been face to face with an extraterrestrial. And then that clip went viral. That was a hard question, but it was the way we phrased it, you know? So it's just something that I try and do. I'm not trying to put anybody else down or anything like that. Everybody's got their own shtick and their own thing, but you can ask tough questions without having to be the aha caught you guy. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Well, it's working. I mean, the popularity of your show is a testament to it. So.
Absolutely. There's nobody that I talk to that doesn't know about you. Nobody. I've never had anybody say, who is that to me ever? And in the last two and a half years now, not at all. They know who you are.
Well, thank you.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So Preston, where are we going?
I've heard of Dave Scott. So
right.
now you know. Oh yeah. Well, okay. I always like to start the show, and I'm probably going to blindside you a little bit because I didn't get to warn you, but I think it's okay. I always like to start the show asking our guests how they got involved in this field. What were they like as little kids? Did you have encounters? Were you a skeptic? How did this all roll out for you?
You know what? And I love that question because so many people don't ask it. I grew up, I remember watching the $6 Million Man and seeing Bigfoot in there, and I was like, wow. And then I remember seeing the television show V, and
Mhm.
I remember it kind of scared me a little bit. And I've always been into UFOs and ghosts, but I've never really got into it. I mean, you go camping with your buddies when you're growing up, and you're like, before I die, I remember saying this specifically, before I die, I wanted to see a UFO, I
Oh,
wanted to see a ghost, and I wanted to see a Sasquatch. Well, I've
When
seen
did
all.
you think that?
I'm
When you
probably
were
around
little?
15, 16.
Wow.
you got your wish. Absolutely. Intention.
I
Now,
saw I saw my first UFO at age 21, and that was like I'm going to use the popular term. It's like it was like an orange tic tac, and I watched it fly across the sky, and it was about 2:30 in the morning, and I just got I'm not a drinker. So when I was young, even when I was younger, when my friends would go to the bar, I would always be designated driver. And so my friends could get as loopy as they wanted and know that they had a safe ride home. That's kind of the way we played it. And I got home, and it was one of those hot nights where, and I still live with my mom and dad at that point. We didn't have air conditioning, and mom had all the, God bless her, had all the windows open and the sliding door open. And I walked outside, grabbed a glass of water, walked outside, and I was just standing on the patio, and I heard this real deep buzzing sound. And what a lot of people don't know about me is I am very much an amateur enthusiast about military aircraft.
Hmm.
I love military aircraft. I tried getting into the Canadian Armed Forces,
oh, wow.
18, and there was a hiring freeze at that time. And I didn't get, by the time they lifted the hiring freeze, I already had pins in my knees from an accident. So my dream of becoming a fighter pilot never really came to fruition. But I ended up, I remember going to my hometown of Abbotsford, British Columbia, and every year we had this major air show there. And, I would watch all the jets fly in, and I would recognize their sounds and memorize, how they were and everything like that. And I remember on this night when I saw the UFO, it had a real deep buzzing sound, like a C-130 Hercules engine flying in the sky, where it's kind of like a propeller on the front, but it still has like an engine in the back that's blowing the steam out of it, and makes a very distinct sound, except this was a little deeper sound. And then I look up, I see the orange light. I'm like, okay, there's no red, there's no green. What is this? And it flew over, and then all of a sudden, just at a snap of a finger, the light turned out. And then about 15, 20 seconds later, boom, the sound went out. And I went, holy cow, I just saw you, right?
Yep.
And when was that?
Pardon me?
When
What
was
year?
that?
Oh, that would have been 1990. How old was I? I turned 20 in 93. So about 1994.
Wow.
All right.
That's
394.
interesting. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So I really didn't. I didn't get into it. And shortly after that, I was working at a hockey rink as a hockey instructor.
Wow.
And this little rink was so haunted. It was
Oh,
so
wow. Yeah.
it scared the daylights out of me, to the point where I hated being there early morning, and I hated being there at night by myself. And it was, I don't know what the hell is there, but I'll tell you, the paranormal fan in me would love to investigate that portion.
Well, what happened? I mean, what kind of activity
What
did you?
didn't happen? Couple examples. I would be cleaning the dressing rooms at the end of the night, and I remember this one time my cousin was with me. We had all the hockey players had got home for the night. We had locked the doors and they were like, "Come on, we'll help you hurry up," because we were all getting it was a birthday party, so we were all going to the bar and and 20, 21 years old, that's kind of what you do when your friend has a birthday. And so the dressing rooms were right by the entrance to the hockey rink. And if you're a hockey fan, the fact that the sound of a hockey puck makes a very distinct sound when it hits the boards and
Right.
when it hits the glass. And as I'm cleaning up the dressing room, I'm in the dressing room, my cousin is in the dressing room, and his girlfriend is in the dressing room. And we start hearing hockey pucks being fired on the glass and the boards.
Wow.
And not just one or two, we're talking like 8, 10 of them. And I remember saying, who the hell is on the ice? So we run out to the ice. I already know I've locked the door. I already know there's nobody in the building except us three. And there's not a single puck on the ice.
Oh my.
And then another time, one of my coworkers, him and I, we had to do this job, a real grotesque job in the hockey rink of spraying down all the dressing rooms and the showers, because after quite a bit of time, they got pretty gross. And we could hear the guys in the dressing room. We were up front by the office, and we could hear the guys in the dressing rooms down below us, laughing away, talking like guys do after hockey, throwing the beer cans in the garbage can. We could hear the cling of the tin and all that. So after about half an hour, I said to him, his name was Mike. I said, "Mike, go back there. We're going to be here all night. Go back there and tell those guys to hurry up, because I don't want to be here until 5, 6 in the morning. I'd rather get out of here at 3 in the morning." He goes, "Not a problem." He goes to the dressing room and he comes back stone white. And he's like, "I'm not going back there." I said, "Why?" He goes, "There's nobody in the dressing rooms." He goes, "I checked all 4 dressing rooms. There is nobody in the dressing room. What the F was that? What was that noise? You heard it, right?" I'm like, "I heard it." I said, "We're out of here. We are out of here." I'm not playing the ghost game. So following that, I had my ghost experience. I had my UFO experience. And then I ended up living with my ex-wife in a haunted house. It was really weird. It was really weird. We rented a duplex. Our best friends were on the other side, and our side was completely haunted. Their side, nothing. And this is going back to when my daughter was still an infant. And when we moved there, and I think she was maybe 2 at the time, just getting into her bed, and so many things happened there. We remember, my ex-wife and I remember we were sitting on the couch one night. My kid was gone to grandma and grandpa's house for night, and she had this real squeaky door. And we hear her door open, the pitter-patter of little feet running across the bed. And then, you know how kids use mom and dad's bed when they're small as a trampoline?
Yeah.
We had a real squeaky bed. And all of a sudden you hear the bed, like you. And we're like, what the heck is going on up there? And many things with that little girl happen. I actually saw her one night where I fell asleep. I got home from the radio station, and even though I had worked in sports all night long, first thing I did when I got home is I watched the sports channels to see what I missed that I may have forgotten, it just kind of covering my butt kind of thing. And my daughter was a sleepwalker. So she came downstairs. I called her over. I laid her on, I'm laying on the couch, and she lays on top of daddy. And I guess we both fell asleep because I had the television on timer. And my buddy next door, he had this dog that was just a barkaholic. Like if there was a crosswind going 20 miles an hour. That was 38 minutes of barking.
Yeah.
Okay. And the dog had got into this habit of around 4 o'clock in the morning every night, just going nuts barking. And I remember waking up on the couch and I was so mad at the dog because I literally had done a 14-hour shift the day before and I was tired and I got my daughter on me. And when I heard the dog barking, I was laying on my side facing the couch and my daughter was in between the back of the couch and me, and I do everything by pounds, not years, because I was about 35 pounds ago, right? And my daughter was using my arm as a pillow. So I'm thinking I gotta open the window and tell this dog to shut up. And we walked in, or pardon me, not walked in. What did I say that for? So I quickly tried to slide my arm out from underneath my daughter, and I flipped over the couch like this, and I could see something hazy standing maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet from me. And when my eyes focused, there was a ghost of the little girl standing right there staring at me. She was in a white nightie. She was maybe about the size of my daughter, maybe 3 years old, 4 years old, maybe. She had big, pudgy kid cheeks, very tiny mouth. Her eyes were kind of darkened. She had long, curly ringlet hair down just past her shoulders. And there
Wow.
she was just staring at me. And I remember I could see right through her. And this is going back in time, 2002, I think, where my VCR, we're going back to VCR days. My VCR, my VCR said 4:02 a.m. And I remember doing what any man would do. I grabbed the blanket, I rolled back over towards the couch, and I put the blanket over my head, and I'm like, oh my God, did I just see what I saw? And I'm like, okay, take a breath. This is right out of a horror movie. Let's, is she going to kill me? What's
It's a
going to
little girl, Dave. Come on.
Yeah, that's how horror movies start, right?
She is a ghost. Okay.
So I end up catching my breath, saying, okay, I'm going to do this. I grab the covers, I throw them off, I roll over, and she is gone.
Yeah.
So I grab my daughter, run upstairs. I put my daughter in her bed, go into my room. I close the door, and it was nuts.
Did you ever find out who she was?
Yes, but I can't remember.
Oh.
Okay. I know we had a psychic read the area, and he had stated that you have never been to my house. He goes, you have a real steep stairwell, don't you? I said, yes. He goes, because I'm picturing her falling down the stairs and breaking her neck. Being chased by her brothers. And apparently we had 4 spirits in that place. There was a heroin addict who had died in the house, according to the psychic. Because a lot of nights we'd hear the sound of scratching in our closet, like on the drywall. And we had cats, so we knew we didn't have mice or rats, but you'd hear the scratching. And we had a ghost on our property that would wander around, and we had the baby girl, and then apparently her mother.
So these are all active spirits, and I'm wondering if the ghosts of the hockey rink were more, what would you call it? Like, there's a name for it, echoes or
It's a resonant echo.
Yeah.
It's playing back. That's why I wanted to know where the rink was, the topography of the area, because if you were on a lot of granite, rock, that can happen. And if it's wired a certain way, it will play back anything that's been in the building.
Residual haunting. That's the term.
Yeah, residual. Yeah. And I've had that happen to me a few times. It is wow.
I went to broadcasting school, did my thing, loved listening to Art Bell at night, and then George Norrie. And, we would sit in our radio station even though a different radio station was playing them. But we would listen to them at night while we were doing our thing at our own radio station. And you know, it I thought, man, that would be a dream job doing that. And you know, so I quit radio in 2007. I took a job that I loved, and I learned to hate it in radio. Got out, threw my microphone, all my stuff away, just didn't want anything to do with it. And then in 2011, that's where things really started to kind of come together, where it was December 13th, 2011 at 7:45 p.m. You know, and when you get traumatized by something, it's easy to remember dates and times. And that night we were doing a early Christmas for my daughter. My ex-wife and I agreed that she could go on a Christmas cruise and New Year's cruise to the Caribbean with her maternal grandparents. So I figured, you know what, instead of waiting for her, you know, and seeing all the presents under the tree, you know, for her having to wait until I think she got home like January 10th or something like that. Like she was gone for like 3.5 weeks.
Wow.
I figured, you know what, we'll do an early Christmas for her. So I had all my side of the family over. We had about 22 people there. And I'll remember there was a Vancouver Canucks game on the television. They were playing the San Jose Sharks.
Wow, you do remember.
Yeah. And I remember there was a Canucks game, but I had to eventually go back and look who they were playing. Because, and this is, it's kind of important at this time while I'm telling the story, and I'll mention it here momentarily. So at about 7:45 at night, my parents, like, we don't have a close family. We're not close. Like, I haven't talked to my one sister since my mom passed away. Prior to that, I hadn't talked to her in 2-3 years. My other sister, well, we come and go. We're just not a close family. You know, there's a lot of love there, but just we're not close. And so I got really pissed off because at 7:45, my parents announced they were leaving. And I'm like, why? You know, like, we have everybody here. You're always wanting family get-togethers. We're doing a family get-together. You know, your granddaughter's going away for Christmas. Spend some time with her, right? And no, gotta go. I said, and I remember getting real snarky with my dad. I said, why do you have to leave? The Canucks game's on the TV. You can watch it here. Well, my parents were, he goes, it's not the Canucks game. Dancing with the Stars starts in 15 minutes, right? We got to get home. It's a 15-minute drive home. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? You are actually leaving a family event to go home to watch Dancing with the effing Stars? Like, my dad and I talk very hockey talk to each other. I'm like, whatever. Good night. See you. So my mother-in-law, my new mother-in-law, and my partner and my sister were kind of cleaning up the kitchen area, and there was a doorway between the kitchen and the dining room, which led into the living room, and I was just kind of helping pick up dishes because I'm just steaming mad at this point. And my mom goes into the kitchen, my partner comes and gets me, says, hey, your mom's in the kitchen, go give her a hug. So I figure, well, that's a polite thing to do. So I go give my you know, I put the plates down or plates or glasses down on the dining room table, and I walk into the kitchen, and my mom's kind of walking through the doorway to me. And that's when I noticed something very weird. And this is the night it all started.
Wow.
Everybody was silent. Even the hockey game was silent. And I looked into my mother's beautiful blue eyes, and they were jet black with her pupils now white. And immediately I got sick to my stomach and wanted to cry because I don't know how I knew, but I knew I was looking into the eyes of the angel of death. And I kind of cocked my head to the right, kind of like, what the hell is going on here? And my mom all of a sudden got this real shocked face, kind of like, oh, you see me. But she didn't whisper that, but it was kind of like that, oh my God, you're seeing this. And then my mom shook her head once, her eyes went blue, the sound went back on the television, and everybody started moving again.
Yeah.
Damn.
And now all of this happened in maybe 5 seconds. Maybe 5 seconds. Could have been less. Okay. I could be generous on the time there. And I ran down to my bedroom, and my partner knew that something was wrong because she'd been going to all these woo classes of, spirituality, meditation, BS that I didn't believe in, right? Thought it was a waste of time, but she enjoyed it. Go. I don't really care. Okay. And she runs into the room. She goes, what happened? And I'm crying. I am literally crying. And I said, I just saw the angel of death in my mother's eyes. And she goes, oh my God, what it looked like. So I told her, and she goes, okay, get yourself together. Your mom and dad are at the door. You got to go say goodbye. So I went back, said goodbye, and gave them each a hug. They drove off. So a couple hours after that, everybody had left. Kids are in bed. And my partner, the way our dining room was set up, or our living room was set up, we had a love seat, then the table, and then across from that was the couch. And she goes, why don't you just sit down, relax, and tell me what you saw? She lit a white candle on the table, saying that it's going to help with any spirit activity to bring it forward, and a glass of water. Even though I'm a Pepsi and Coca-Cola freak, she gave me a glass of water, and I'm sitting down, and she goes, just close your eyes. She goes, I'm going to ask you some questions. Just kind of, she didn't use the word meditate because she knew that I wouldn't appreciate that word at that time. And she said, just tell me what happened. So as I started talking to her, I could literally hear this voice in my ear. And I was telling her, and she's like, well, what's that voice saying? I said, it's him. It's the angel of death. And I ended up channeling him.
Oh my.
Holy smokes.
Now, my understanding of channeling, I have a remote control right here, okay, from the TV screen that I use for the show. My idea of channeling prior to that was, on a Sunday night at like midnight, you can't sleep, but there's never anything on. So you channel your way through the remote as fast as you can in order to finally find something that might be worth watching. Yeah. That's what I thought channeling was. I never knew anything about it. So the angel of death tells me, through me, I should say, says that I wasn't supposed to see him. But because I did, he felt he owed me an explanation. My mom at that time was a 2-time cancer survivor. And as a family, this part's a little emotional.
Yeah.
As a family, we had watched my mom become very addicted to sympathy. And so we weren't being nice to mom. And what I mean by that is, you'd hear her, you'd call up, and you'd pick up the phone, or she'd pick up the phone, and she'd be like, hello, hi mom, it's me. How you doing? And then immediately she would change her voice, and she'd be like, oh, I'm so much in pain. The pain, the pain, the pain, and it'd be like, yeah, great. Is dad there? Right? Because you couldn't have a conversation with my mom without discussing the pain.
Yep. Poor syndrome. I know about it. Yep.
Yeah. And so it became very frustrating. But the angel of death kicked my ass on that one. He said, indeed, my mother was very ill. And he said, if you don't start taking better care of her as a family, I'm going to take her home. He didn't say heaven. He didn't say hell. He said, I'm going to take her home. Now, this conversation lasted about 38 minutes. It was recorded, except at the early stages of iPhone, out of nowhere, you would get the blue screen of death.
Yeah.
You know, the iPhone 3,
Yeah.
the blue screen of death. Well, that's where we lost the recording.
Oh.
Yeah. So the angel of death, I asked the angel of death, well, how do I keep my mother alive? And he said, show her love. Show her love. Like, and tell the family to start showing love. So I did. I called up my aunt. I called up my grandmother. I called up my sisters. I didn't tell my dad because my dad is a Alberta 5 senses farm boy.
Yeah.
Where if it isn't Pepsi versus Coke or politics, he doesn't want to talk about it.
Right.
And so I eventually told Dad, and I even told my mom. But I did exactly what the angel of death said. And we got another 12 years out of my mom.
My goodness.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
My mom was so weak. She could barely pick up she loved baking buns. Didn't matter. Fresh buns, cinnamon buns. It was the Mennonite in her that was continually baking. And, I think that's probably the reason why I'm fat today is because of my mother's amazing cooking, and, but I look at it like she could barely hold a fork at times. And then in 2013, when my son was born, my mom was carrying him around, dancing with him, rocking him like she had the strength of a champion.
Yep.
And to this day, I still think, here's the other thing. I think my son gave her extra life because her big thing was she wanted him to get to know her.
oh.
And about 7 months, mom died in June, 8 months prior to that, we had been called to the hospital that mom was on her last legs and it was time to come say goodbye. So we drive down and it's like 4.5 hours to the hospital from where we live. And we get down to the hospital and my mom is laying in the bed and she's like, you hear, oh. And my son goes running in. Hi, Grandma. I'm here. I'm happy to see you. And all of a sudden, the next day, everything in my mom's kidney count, because she had bad kidneys, everything jumped up miraculously. And I think my son twice really had the power of spirituality.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I agree with you 100%. Yep.
So
Yeah.
when you were having that channeling experience, were you fully aware of what was going on?
Yes.
Wow.
And it's funny because I kept on interrupting him and my partner kept saying, you keep quiet, let him talk. Stop talking. Try to talk.
Right.
Like, I don't even know what's going on. Right? So I'm sorry.
Well, was he talking through your voice?
Yes. Yeah. I would hear his voice. I could hear his voice on this side. And then I would just speak the words. And if I said something wrong, he would correct me.
Yeah.
Right.
You were in full communion with him. Absolute.
Yeah, that's like mediumship. That's full on mediumship.
It's not channeling. That's how it is with me and Talata. He speaks through me. And when he has something to say to Preston, I have to tell him because he won't leave me alone till I do. And he'll correct me as well. If I don't get it exactly right, he makes me go back and say it again and or write it down.
Yeah.
And that is absolute communion with a entity who just happens to be the angel of death. That's very cool.
I know it took a long time to tell that story. So I apologize. I'll whip through the next little bit because it's all in my bio.
No, take your time. This is fascinating.
This is fantastic. Yeah.
2 days after that incident, my house was haunted. All of a sudden we started feeling ghosts all around, and all of a sudden I'm picking up on ghosts, and I left that to my partner, and all of a sudden hearing people running up and down our stairs, but there's nobody there, and it started. And then about 5-6 days later, I went to a concert of a major band. To this day, I won't say what the band was, to protect. I had a friend of mine. Our daughters were best friends, but she she used to date a rock star, and she was also a Playboy Mansion hostess.
Oh, wow.
And um, when she broke up with the rock star, I had said to her, I said, "Don't worry, I feel something bigger is coming for you." And this was a couple of years prior to this. And on December 17th of that year, went to a concert. It's me and my partner, and she and her stepdad. We all went. They were sitting like 4 rows behind us. And I see this guitarist on stage. And I remember leaning over to my partner. I said, "That's her next boyfriend, not my partner's, my friend's next boyfriend." And within 3 minutes, she ran down right into us. She goes, "Oh my God, I'm in love." And so 11 months later, she ran into him face to face in Las Vegas, and he wouldn't leave her alone. Like, he was just enamored with her. And I predicted that whole situation when he would go on tour with the band. She's like, "I haven't heard from him. What's going on?" I said, "Don't worry." I said, "They're flying back tonight. He'll give you a call by 11:30 tomorrow night." And, I remember this one time I said, "You know what? He's going to call you on Easter." And this was when Easter was in March. And she's like, "He never called. He never called. You finally screwed up on one." I said, "It's still Easter. He's got an hour to go." It was like 11 o'clock at night when she was texting conversation, pardon me, not a phone call. And I said, "Good night." I said, "Wait up. He's going to text." And 15 minutes later, I got a text message. "How did you know?"
Because
That's what I want to know.
You're awake. You were absolutely awake.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so after that, I kept working on I met a gentleman named Pascal Lachance, who is my ultimate guru. And he was my partner's meditation coach. And he's a giant of a man. He is probably 6'3", probably 335 pounds. He is the most pleasant man you could ever meet. But when he shakes your hand, he lets you know that he's not a big wimp. You know what I'm saying? And I was telling him about the experiences of the channeling. He got real interested. So I remember this night, it was about 4, 5, 6 months after this happened. And he said the most important words in my life. And he goes, "Come on, let's go for a drive." I'm like, "It's 11:30 at night and I have to work tomorrow morning." He goes, "Who cares? What's time? Let's go for a drive." So we go for a drive. And the first thing, and I'm a little weirded out by this because I barely know this guy. And the first thing he says is, "Okay, put your seatbelt on." I put my seatbelt on. He goes, "Okay." As we start going, he goes, "Lift your jacket up in the back." And he puts this giant bear paw of a hand on my back, like my lower back. And I'm like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, I don't know this guy. Are you fondling me? Are you going to grope me? Or, at least tweak my nipples and make me excited." And
Okay.
start putting energy into my body. And he goes, "Okay, I feel your blockages. You have them in your knees, in your hips, in your elbows, in your shoulders, in your wrists, your ankles." And I said, "Okay, like, what does this mean? I thought we were just going to talk about channeling." And he looks at me and he goes, "Dave, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go?"
All the way.
Yeah.
And I
God.
made the mistake of saying all the way. And he goes, when you go all the way, you can't come back. And I said, man, if I get to talk to ghosts and can understand what's happening to them, I said, let's do this. So for the next year and a half, we were working with each other. And to this day, I owe him everything. I really do. I'm not as good at the channeling anymore. I'm not as good at the summoning anymore. I'm not as good at, because I don't practice. I don't have time to practice. I barely have time. I mean, well, you know my schedule. I'm late today, not because I wanted to be, but I work a daytime job, and then I get about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours with my family if I'm lucky. And then I have to, even though I'm still in the household, I got to go back to work on the radio show until 1 o'clock in the morning. That's my day, 5.5
Which
days
is
a
a
week.
lot of work. I don't know how you do it. We're
Oh,
doing it once a
I am
week, and we're like, oh my God.
I will be blunt. I am running on empty. But as we went on, that more things started happening. Okay, and then it led to the Bigfoot sighting. We'd met these people who owned a 10-acre parcel of land that had been in their family for 43 years. And this place was like a mini Skinwalker Ranch.
Okay, wait, before you get into this, I just need to take a quick station ID break because we've now done a full hour. So let me just quick read out the call signs and let everyone know you are watching episode 70 of The Light Gate. I'm your host, Preston Dennett. My lovely co-host is Dolly Saffron. Our guest tonight is the amazing Dave Scott, experiencer of many unusual things, host of the amazing podcast Spaced Out Radio. Check it out. We are streaming live on several platforms, including the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM and 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We're also on YouTube. We are on Facebook, and we are on Roku. And we've been talking about all kinds of amazing things from Dave's childhood, ghost sightings, all kinds of premonitions and channeling and UFO sightings. And now we're moving into some really interesting Bigfoot stuff and more. So there you go, Dave. Sorry, I had to take a
no worries. Thank you. So I had stated to, or in one of my sessions with Pascal, he said, what do you want to see next? I said, I want to see a Bigfoot. I've seen UFOs. I've seen a ghost. And I said, I've always wanted the trifecta. He goes, when do you feel this is going to happen? And I said, I think it's going to happen in July. I keep feeling July. And he goes, well, where's it going to happen? I said, I don't know. I said, it's either going to happen in the forest of our friend's house, or it's going to happen when we're out ATVing somewhere, or, maybe out fishing or something. So July comes and goes of 2013. Nothing happened. Zero, zip, zada, nada. And then in September of 2014 or 2013, just a couple months later, my friend who owned the property of 10 acres, he goes, hey, I want to take you back in the forest. And I want to show you where something weird had happened when I was a kid. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, okay. We were walking the trail and we're just BSing like we normally do about the stuff that goes on their property, the ghosts, and everything that were there. And we go over to, he wants to take me to this tree because back then when he was a kid, him and his buddy were playing Cowboys and Indians, and they were by a tree. It was kind of like a hide and go seek game. And they had this wooden arrow shoot right in between them and stick into the tree. But it wasn't like an arrow from the 70s or 80s. This was like a rock cut into an arrow.
Yeah.
With wood, I don't know bow and arrows that well, but with the wood stick and then the feather sticking out, and they ran back. So he's like, I want to show you where this happened. So we get about 2/3 of the way there, and we come across this tree that's about 10 inches around, and it snapped at 8 feet tall, at 8 feet high. And it was so freshly snapped that it was still wet. The bark that was coming off the tree was still damp. So we knew it was fresh.
Wow.
But the weird part about it was there was no windstorms to bring this down. Okay, there was no heavy rain. There was nothing natural that could break it down. And considering the farm was on, or that forest was on private property, it's not like somebody was trying to cut it down or anything like that. It was like, it was very jagged, like somebody had reached down or reached on it and pulled on it and it snapped. And so as we're looking at this tree, all of a sudden we started getting the feeling that we were being watched. So we both stopped because there's black bears in that area. There's mountain lions, there's coyotes, and so we start looking around and we see right in front of us, about 100 feet away, this big Douglas fir tree, old school forest tree with the big canopy. But there's something at the base of it that is kind of looking at us. So I saw it first. I said, "Hey man, do you see that straight ahead?" And what, like if my microphone's a tree, it was kind of leaning out and then pulling in. And then we'd see just the shoulder. And then it'd slowly peer its face out again, where we could actually barely see the face. And this went on for about 5-10 minutes. Now, my friends had a rule here, okay? And that rule was, and a lot of people will disagree with it, and they'll think this is where it's made up, okay? But they really respected the spiritual aspect of their property and of the beings there. And one of the things that they had a rule on their property, no photography. Okay. Let them be. We're not bugging them. Let them be. Let them get comfortable with us. So we're standing there staring at that. And this went on for about 5 minutes. And I said, "We should get going." And he's like, "Yeah, we need to go. We need to leave this guy alone. We don't want to upset him." So we did what any good Canadian kids would do. We put our hands up. We waved at him, said, "Bye. Thank you. We appreciate you. And we're leaving now." So I turned to my right. And as I'm turning my right so if this guy was right at noon, this one was about 1:30, 2 o'clock. But at about 70 feet, I see this tree branch shaking in the trees. And it caught my attention and I stopped. And that's where I saw the second one walk right through where that shaking tree branch was. And,
Amazing.
and it was, I got a full right profile, a full back profile from the waist up. There was no neck. And it had the cone-shaped head. There was no neck. And it was only about 7.5, 8 feet tall. But this thing was freaking huge. Huge.
Only about 8 feet tall. Is that all?
And I watched it walk right through there. So I yelled over at my friend, "Hey, did you just see the second one?" And he's already 30, 40 feet down the trail because I got these short little penguin legs. Okay. And he's got these basketball size player size legs. And I ran back to, "You're not leaving here without me." So that was my first Sasquatch encounter. Now, that farm, whenever I actually finish my autobiography that I've been working 6 years on and probably haven't worked on it in about 9 months, and I have so many more stories to add to it. Let's fast forward to April of 2014. And I went back to the farm. My partner was already there for tea. I had a really bad migraine on the way driving there. And Preston, you'll like this part because, and Dolly, I know you will too. I'm not trying to leave you out. I get to the house and I go sit on the couch. I said, "I don't know how long I'm going to stay. I have a migraine. It's about 9 o'clock at night." And my partner says to me, "Do you want to go home?" I said, "No, you just got here and you're having tea." And I said, "I'm just going to close my eyes, put a pillow over my eyes, get some blackness in my, and see if I can loosen it up a little bit." And then I realized about 45 minutes later that it wasn't a migraine. Because as the pain from the migraine subsided, all of a sudden I started getting pulsating shapes in my head. It started off with a square in the front, a triangle on the right side, and a circle on the left side. And when the circle died off, it's now about 10 o'clock. I sat up straight and I had this anxiety attack that I had to go into their backfield. Like I had to go in there right now.
I think I know what this is leading to.
Yeah. I tell my partner this, and she's like, "Can I come?" I said, "No, you have to stay in here with our son," because our son was 10 months old at that time. The lady of the house, who I no longer have any affiliation with, she says to her hubby, "Dave's picking something up. We need to get our shoes on and go right now." And I looked at her and I said, "He's not invited. Why would I tell somebody who owns the property that they're not invited?" So either way, we respected that. Her and I go back, get our shoes on. We walk to the back of the house. And on the West Coast, we get a lot of real, in spring, we get a lot of real misty nights, misty low cloud nights. And that's what this was. So everything is damp. Like even your breathing is damp. And we go outside, and about 40 feet behind their house, they got this old 2x10 horse fence there. And there's only two houses on their street. There's their house, which is 10 acres, and then their neighbors, which was about 6.5 acres. And the house was surrounded by the forest, which led down to a gully. But the gully is irrelevant in this part. I'm just painting a picture. And we ended up going back to that fence, and I'm like, "Do you feel?" Or she's like, "Do you feel that?" I'm like, "Yeah, there's something out here." She's like, "No doubt." She goes, "Well, you're the one they called outside. Let's see what happens. Call them back." So I said, out of God's peace, love, and light, you called us outside. Can you show us where you are? And as soon as I said, "Show us where you are," and I'm talking in the same volume that I am to you guys. I'm not yelling anything. I don't have my hands out. And as soon as I said, show us where you are," bang. The brightest white light I have ever seen in my life lights up about 150 yards from us in the neighbor's back field by the forest.
Wow.
And I just went, "Oh my God." So the skeptic, and this is where a lot of people don't understand that those of us who have these incredible experiences, everybody always, the skeptics and the non-believers or the critics that we have, they will always sit there and say, "Well, you just believed in this stuff. It could have been this, it could have been that. You guys have got it. You know what I'm talking about."
Yes.
When I have an experience, I try to run through everything logical that I know.
You're supposed to. That's perfect.
So
First reaction I always have, I'm like, what can this be?
Yeah. Right.
first thought,
Ferret it out.
my first thought is this one of those 100,000 candle watt flashlight that you can go down to the hardware store and buy?
Right.
No. How did they hear me? I wasn't talking very loud. How did they hear me? There's no way they could have heard me.
Yes, they could.
Verbally.
Okay, true.
Then I'm looking through the white. I'm looking to see if there's any shadows. I'm looking to see if I can see any movement. I'm listening to see, is there any music? Is there any noise, laughter, talking, whatever it was? Nothing. 30 seconds later, the lights go out. And I said, "Out of God's peace, love, and light, if you are of alien descent, can you please turn your lights back on?" Bang. Lights come back on again.
Wow.
And this time they're wider through the trees. And in between the two properties, they had a row of trees along the fence line that were probably 60, 70 feet tall. Okay. And I move over to my right because I'm trying to get a view of where this white light is coming from. Because I'm still thinking 100,000 candle watt flashlight. Maybe there's shadows moving, and I could see something moving. So I moved past the tree and I start seeing this blue thing. And it was a vertical, the most beautiful blue I had ever seen. And the closest blue that I've made out to on it is that LED blue that you see on police lights.
Almost like a sapphire, right?
Except darker.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Now, here's the funny part. The next time I saw that blue was when that UFO went into the water in Hawaii that they caught on video.
Yeah.
That was the exact same blue. And I actually talked to Lou Elizondo about that. And he said, did it go to any color? Because they had heard about these long blue cylinders. And in fact, there's NASA photos of these long blue cylinders flying by the astronauts in the LEM and while they're on the moon.
Yeah.
And I'm not allowed to release them, but I have 3 of those photos.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
Very
And-
cool.
Yeah.
So I'm watching this, and the blue cylinder is standing up. It's probably 20, 30 feet high because it's going about halfway up these trees. And there's this black cloud rotating counterclockwise. It went halfway up, and then it would make its way down. And I'm looking at this. I'm like, well, where's the white light? The white light was emanating from the bottom of
Right.
this. It was kind of shelving out that way, like a lotus bloom almost. And all of a sudden, 30 seconds later, light went out.
Well, what are you thinking while this is going on? What's going on through your head?
I don't know what to think. Like this, you're in this moment of having this amazing experience happen, but you don't want to believe it's happening. It's scary. So my friend says, let's go over there. And I went, no, we're not going over there. And she goes, what? Everything's good. Well, let's go look at it. I said, no, we're not doing that. I said, we don't know what. I remember talking very sternly to her. I said, we don't know what that is. And I said, if I have to go back, if that thing takes you, I have to go into that house, and I am suspect number 1. And I said, that ain't happening. So she stayed with me, and she goes, well, try it one more time. I said, just so I know I'm not crazy, out of God's peace, love, and light, will you turn the light on one final time? Bang, comes back on. Everything is the same. Okay. But here's where it got weird at the end. You know, when the skeptics will say it's satellites that are hitting the tin or the metal hitting the sun when you get the power-ups. Okay. Well, my partner and I used to go outside with a glass of wine, sit on our patio, and count satellites. But prior to this, we started noticing that these power-ups were always happening above our house or in the vicinity of our house, most of the time over top. And I always thought it was just satellites. And so after about 30 seconds, the lights went off and then back on like a light switch. On, off, on, off, on, off. It did this about 9-10 times before everything went silent. And I stood there for about another 5 minutes. Come on, just one more time, please. Just one more time. Nothing happened.
You realize they had 9 on the ground.
Yeah.
They had 9 on the ground. They had 9 on the ground. They did.
It was showing me that the power-ups that I was seeing above were not satellites. They weren't fraction. It was them powering up saying, hey guys, we're here. Time to pay attention.
Right. Well, there's always a bunch of reasons why they do stuff. But one of the things you were witnessing was something that not many people get to see, Dave. The blue light is a beam of interdimensional energy. Sometimes they look like ribbons, but when they're specifically that close to the ground, it comes down as a pipe, a colored pipe. Okay. And that's how they eject down and they eject up. and they flash because it takes that amount of energy to bring them up. They power up because they're only on batteries, and they have to use their nuclear power at that
Right.
point. And you saw 9 go up, and that's something they never ever show people. You're probably the only person I've ever heard talk about it other than myself. That's amazing.
I can tell you right now, Elizondo has seen it,
Okay.
but his cylinders change. The reports he took, I shouldn't say he's seen it. The reports he took of it
Okay.
were changing color. He's like, did they go red, orange, green, white? And I said, no, mine just stayed blue. Right.
If they
So-
go red, they're fully interdimensional at that point. The whole craft goes interdimensional. If it's red, you're seeing it leave this dimension and go into the fourth. Literally watching it.
Yeah.
So 5 days later, I didn't sleep for 5 days after this.
Hey,
No.
And I ended up going back to, we got invited back to the farm. It was a Wednesday, April 15th of 2024. And our friend said the day before that she had met this lifelong ET contactee. She was going to be over at the house, come meet her. So I meet this young lady who's very popular in our world now, named Samantha Mowat. And yeah, she's been on my show. To me, she's the best kept secret in ufology. And oh, Samantha. Every time I'm with her, something weird happens. So about 25 minutes after meeting her, the girls are doing their little tea thing, and the kids are running around, and they're all doing the small talk. And here I am pacing. I haven't been back to the farm. Samantha looks at me and she goes, "You want to go outside, don't you?" After we told her what had happened. I said, "Yeah." She goes, "You mind if I come with you?" Sure, not a problem. So I take her into the backfield. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. Take her into the backfield. I'm showing her where the craft was. And I kept on saying it felt like they left something for me there. And I never found it, but it felt like they had left like a crystal or something there for me. And I used to bring my 2 dogs over there to run around. The farm had a dog and the neighbors had a dog. And all 4 dogs were running around us, having fun. And Samantha, after about 10 minutes, Samantha, she gets this weird look on her face that she looks completely perplexed. It's the only way that I can describe it. And she goes, "Dave, I've known this girl 25 minutes. Okay." She goes, "You want to go in the forest?"
Oh boy. Okay.
She goes, "We're going to see something, right?" And I went, "Yeah, I know." She goes, "But from what I know, ETs don't like dogs, so I'm not sure if they will be there." So we try and shoo the dogs back to the house.
Mhm.
But the dogs kept following us back, all excited. So we figured, screw it, let's just go. We make small talk. We follow the trail down to the fence line that crosses into the forest. All 4 dogs are running ahead of us. And we get to the gate. All 4 dogs run into the forest. Not a big deal. We walk about 50 yards into the forest. Samantha gets that perplexed look in her face again. And she's looking around. I said, "What's the matter?" She goes, "Dave, where's the dogs?" All 4 dogs were gone. So like stupid white people in a horror movie, we keep going.
Oh no.
Right?
Okay.
We walk probably another 50 yards into the forest. And Samantha is very petite and tiny. She looks like a pixie with red hair. She's like Tinkerbell with red hair. And she jumps up on this tree stump and she starts having this perplexed look on her face again. And I'm about 18 inches from her. She goes, "Dave, look at me." So I did. She goes, "I don't want you to be afraid, but I want you to look that way." And she points north. She goes, "And I want you to tell me what you see." So I take a deep breath. I turn to my left. And for the next 3-4 minutes, the only thing I could say was, "What the F is that, Samantha? What the F is that? What is that, Samantha? What the F is that?" Because 200 feet in front of us, I'm standing there staring at a 10 to 12 foot extraterrestrial tan colored being.
Yeah.
It's looking back at me. I can see the head. I can see the neck. I can see the beanpole type body.
Yeah.
I did not see any arms. I did not see any legs. And I'm staring at this thing, and it's tan in color, and it's like when you put way too much cream in your coffee, that light color tan.
Yeah, mocha.
Is it
And
moving at all?
no, it's just standing there, and I'm frozen. And all of a sudden, Samantha says, "Oh, they're sending me a message." I didn't know there was a second being there. But the second being, is communicating with Samantha, and they say, "You're more than welcome to come over and say hello. We're not here to harm you. We're not here to take you. However, we are worried about the man's health." Well, there's only two people out there, and I know Samantha's not a man, and I'm pretty sure I am.
It was you. Yeah.
And I wasn't scared of them, of it, I should say, because I never saw the second one. What hit me hard like a brick wall, running into a brick wall, was that at that point in my life, I'm 40 years old, going to be 41 in a month, and I didn't understand or comprehend that everything that I had learned up until that point in my life was a lie. Not a lie on purpose,
Right.
but I believed in God. I believed in the devil. I believed in heaven. I believed in hell. I didn't go to church, but I had strong belief, but nothing my parents, my sisters, my grandparents, my uncles, aunts, elders, hockey coaches, baseball coaches, school teachers, whoever important was in my life ever told me, "What do you do when you have an extraterrestrial staring back at you in the middle of the afternoon and you know it's not a kid in a 12-foot Tyrannosaurus Rex blow-up costume," right? And so Samantha says, "Let's go over and say hello." And I'm like, "No, let's not do this." And she goes, "No, come on. They said they're not going to take us. Let's go." And I'm like, "No, please stay here with me."
It's a lot. Yeah, I get it.
Starts walking down the trail. And I'm like, "Samantha, please stay with me. We don't know what these things are." And once again, I use my famous line, "I'm not going back to the house alone because I am suspect number one."
Okay.
And so begrudgingly, she stayed there with me. We watched them for about another 10, 15 minutes. I watched it change color from a light tan to like almost a dark quarter horse giraffe type color. And then and this is where I realized how they get away, because they just don't vanish. They won't do that in front of you. They called us to a different part of the forest. Like, "Hey, if you go into this area over here, you're going to see more beings and you're going to have more interactions over here." Well, we went over to that area. We said goodbye to them. "Thank you. Goodbye." No photos. We go to that other area of the forest. There's nothing there. Nothing. We go back to the original area. They're gone. Right? So that was my alien in the forest. We come out of the forest, and as we get to the gates between the forest and the property, all 4 dogs come out from the property to say hello.
Yep.
And as we're walking back to the farm, Samantha says to me, "Have you ever been taken?" I'm like, "No." And what's weird, Dolly, you'll understand this, Preston, you will too. Samantha and I for years argued about this, because she has zero recall of saying the next words to me. Zero. And we finally figured out why, because they were blocking her on certain things. She says to me, "There's a good chance now that you've had this encounter that you are going to be taken. And don't worry, it doesn't hurt. And it will feel like it hurts, but just clear it out of your memory and you'll be fine. Just pretend it tickles and you'll be fine." September 30th, 2014, I was taken. I woke up on the table to little fingers going through my hair. I turned my head to the right. I could see darkness with the light coming from over top of me. I turned my head to the left, and there's three little gray dudes.
Yeah, Grace. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm taken. I got taken. So put my face back down into what's like that massage table where you got the donut hole to rest your face. Everything's metal, but it's not cold. And then I feel them cut open the back of my head. And then and the guy who's over top of my shoulder starts pulling my skin this way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I felt what I perceived to be a saw cut open the back of my head. And the funny part about this is I am screaming. And then I hear Samantha's voice say, don't remember I told you, Dave, it doesn't hurt. And I started laughing and everything started getting ticklish.
Wow.
And so I feel this guy trying to put his finger in to where the cut is that they've just made in my head, like trying to pull my skull up. And this is the second funny part. Lorian Fenton always says, Dave, I know this story is true because in people's accounts, they never say the little stuff like this. I had to pee. And I had to pee bad. Like, when you go to the bar with your friends and you have a few too many drinks, doesn't matter whether you're drinking alcohol or you're drinking water, and then you're waiting because you don't want to start the rotation of going to the bathroom every 8 minutes,
right?
Because you broke the seal. That's how bad and painful my bladder was. And I started yelling at him through the donut. I'm like, hey guys, you better hurry up here. I'm going to piss all over your table. I don't want to pee on you guys. I don't want to pee on myself. Get me back home. And I'm screaming this at them.
There's Lorian.
There's Lorian.
Hey. Yeah.
I love Lorian. And I feel them getting really rushed. And next thing I know, I wake up face down on top of my blanket. My head is pounding. I jump up. I grab my head with my right hand. I run to the bathroom. And I stand there for like 4 minutes, relieving myself. To this day, for my record and my fans, it was the best piss of my life.
Okay. Another question. I want to interject something.
Yeah.
Do you still have migraines?
Yes. Not very often now, though.
Not very often? Less? Okay.
Yeah, I haven't. I've had one in probably the last 4 years.
Okay, so you've gotten relief, not gone, but relief. Yeah. Okay.
So that's when I realized that I was an abductee. I do have a really cool recent story about abduction, if you don't mind.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Okay. This happened this past February. Okay. And everything for me happens in a dream state. Okay. Where I'll be in a dream and then all of a sudden, and I know we've discussed this on my show before, where you feel the gravitational pull, like they are pulling you away. That's how I end up knowing that I'm having an experience. Right. So on this night, I was dreaming that I was in this dark alleyway with only a street light way in the distance to light it up. And my dad was there, and two of my cousin was there, and one of my friends was there growing up. And we were talking away, and I'm like, hey, just let me grab my cell phone. And somehow I found my cell phone. It was on a stairwell that was in a darkened area, but I didn't have my iPhone. I had one of those old indestructible Nokias.
Yeah, the flip one, right? Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I felt the gravitational pull after I picked it up. And I dropped the phone, which made this bang. And I said, oh God, here we go. I got off the show that night at about 1 o'clock. I get out of my studio about 1 in the morning Pacific time. And I look at my clock, or I wake up, I look at my phone, it's 2:09 a.m. And I wake up in bed. Oh, but prior to looking at the clock, pardon me, I wake up in bed and I'm like, good, I'm back. They're still here. I can feel them behind me because I'm sleeping on my left side. And I slowly start to peek on over and outside my window because I never look. I'm getting pissed off at myself that I never look. I want to look. I want to see them because I know they're right behind me, but I always too chicken to look. So this time I gathered my breath. I'm going to look. I go to peek like this, and out of the corner of my eye, I see flash outside my window, and they're gone. I'm like, you sons of guns. So that's when I grabbed the phone, looked at the time, realized that I got into bed at 1 o'clock. It's now 2:09. This happened pretty quick. And so I end up going into, or I'm wide awake and I slide off my bed. And the second my feet hit the floor, and Dolly, you can maybe explain this to me a little bit better than I know. But the second my feet hit the floor, I was overcome with absolute cold chills to the point where my teeth were chattering.
Yeah.
I've never had that happen before. I've got recall on about 9 or 10 different times I've been taken. But I ran to the bathroom, did my thing, and I was so cold and shivering that I actually jumped in the shower to warm up. I was in the shower for about 10, 11 minutes.
Yeah.
And I took the hot water as hot as I could take it.
Yeah.
I get
Were you
out of the
sweating
shower.
at the same time?
No.
Okay. All right.
I then crawl into bed and I wake up in the morning to my alarm and I realize that something in my chest has changed. The left side of my chest is cold and I'm emotional because I could feel that they did something to me. And I'd been having some real health problems. I kept it real quiet, but I'd been having some real bad health problems with breathing. I'm now on a CPAP machine in order to be able to breathe at night because I took a sleep test where I was not breathing they tested me out of 429 minutes or 425 minutes that I was asleep. I was not breathing for 261 minutes. I was on the verge of either a major stroke, heart attack, or something that would have killed me.
That's scary.
And so they did something to my chest.
Yeah.
And
you experienced surgical shock. Some people do that. They get really, really cold after a procedure. And it happens. Yep. Now I have another question because this is going to blow you away a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
They only come back for people they want you to keep going. Okay. Right now. And they can light gate in a matter of minutes, less than, get you on board and bring you back to that minute or an hour later. In other words, they're playing with time when they grab you now because they can only light gate in, get in long enough, and it's in one spot. They're not trying to fly everywhere. Okay. Because they really shouldn't be here at all. They don't do it unless it's for somebody. And I'm just thinking that it's important that you remain with us. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I hope so. I got a lot of stuff I need to do yet, right?
Yeah. Because they're light gating in for you. That's interesting. I've been told that I can be taken at any time. Okay.
Yeah.
And I've refused to go. I've got stuff to do right now. But if my life is in danger, Talata will come and grab me. He'll take Preston too because he won't have any choice. At that point, I won't let him leave. I mean, he won't go. Okay.
I'm ready.
Yeah. But
I'm on board too, so I know.
Can get out, but it's only for people that they're trying to help right now.
Yeah.
Which is amazing to me. Yeah.
Here's the interesting part about this. So I get ready for work, and I'm like, I got to call my dad. Remember, 5 Senses dad. You're okay?
Okay.
So I call him up. Good morning. He goes, how you doing? I said, I'm good. I said, how'd you sleep last night, Dad? He goes, well, I was tossing and turning. I woke up a couple of times, but not too bad, I guess. I said, what time did you wake up? He goes, oh, I got up about 7:15 this morning. I said, no, what time did you first wake up in the middle of the night? And he goes, oh, it was after 2:00 in the morning. I said, around 2:05, 2:09. He goes, yeah, as a matter of fact. I said, what woke you up? And he goes, I heard a loud bang coming from the living room. But I looked around and nothing is on the ground. Nothing fell. Because remember, in the dream, I had dropped the phone.
That's right.
And I said, what happened when you got up? And he goes, I was really cold. I was shivering. And I went and grabbed another blanket to warm me up.
Yeah.
I'm just laughing at this point, right?
Yeah, it's interdimensional space.
And so I said, how do you feel this morning? He goes, to be honest with you, son, I feel great. Because my dad was like a 60-year smoker.
Ooh.
And every morning he would wake up hacking and wheezing.
Wow.
And he goes, this is the first morning in months that I have not hacked and wheezed. So they fixed him too.
They must have, yeah.
Right.
So not uncommon.
He's like, what happened? I said, Dad, no offense, you wouldn't have a clue or understand. I said, just take it for what it is, that you and I had a really good time last night. Right. Did I ever tell you guys the time I got taken with Science Bob?
No.
I don't think so.
Never heard that at all, ever.
Oh, okay.
We're not going to get to the audience questions tonight, are we?
No, it's okay. This is more important.
Tell the story that we had questions, I promise.
Okay.
So this goes back a couple of years ago, and I had a dream once again that I was being chased around this hotel. Okay, and it was a UFO conference there. But there were 3 grays there chasing me around, and I ran into Bob, and Bob's like, I've seen them. They're trying to get me too, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm speeding up for the questions. I apologize, people. And so I wake up the next morning, and my body is killing me like I didn't sleep a wink that night.
Oh.
Every joint in my body is sore. I go in the shower. I'm trying to, relax my muscles. And so I call Bob on my way to my daytime job. So, Bob, how did you sleep last night? He goes, I tossed and turned quite a bit. He said, anything weird happen? He goes, yeah. This is when he was still with his ex-wife. He goes, Sharon thought she heard someone walking in our downstairs. Right? I'm like, oh, yeah. And there was nobody there. I said, no. So I told him what happened with me. And Bob's like, oh, cool. Because Science Bob, nothing, he tries to always act so bravado. You know what I'm saying? Like, been there, done that. And that's his time as a spook where nothing phases him. He calls me back 8 hours later. And he's like, I was replaying your conversation in my head. And he goes, I went and checked my Fitbit. And he goes, my Fitbit has me for 90 minutes wide awake, walking and running around. And I said, I told you, Bob, we got taken together that night. So that was kind of cool. Okay, audience questions. I know you got to ask some.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. Let me see. Let me pull them up here. I'm not going to get to all of them, but there's some good ones here. Here's one from T-Bone. Does Dave believe Sasquatch are flesh and blood, interdimensional, or something else?
I don't know. I believe it's a combination of all 3. I don't think we can kill them. That's one thing that I am pretty sure on. Lots of people have claimed to have fired on them, and these creatures have taken bullets, but haven't gone down. Or if they have, we still don't have a body. I don't know what they are. We know they feed. We know that they can bleed. But First Nations people will tell you that they can also vanish. And the encounter that I had 2022, we have no idea how that guy left. So I believe it is all 3.
Yeah, me too. I think they're flesh and blood. They're very psychically advanced, telepathic. Why you can't take a picture of them? Because they know.
Yep.
They will absolutely sense what you're thinking. Mm-hmm. All right, here is another interesting question from T-Bone. What is the freakiest thing this guest has ever seen? And not me.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm like, oh, so what is that? Because I'm so used to being the guest. Freakiest thing I've ever seen. I'd have to take some time to think about that.
All
I know
right,
there
well,
is
we'll go back to it then. 'Cause
probably the angel of death. That was the scariest
That
thing.
would be pretty freaky to me. Yeah.
That was the
ranks
scariest.
up there. All right, Groucho Trout. Question: does Dave think the Sasquatch is connected to alien UFO activity?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll even throw another caveat in there. I think there's a reason why you hear so many more people today talk about the phenomenon. Okay, because it's not just ufology anymore. It's not just paranormal. It's not just near death experiences, astral travel, remote viewing, ghosts, cryptids. It is all one. And the more deeper you go down the rabbit hole, the more it all seems to be tied together. So I do believe that there is this invisible stitching that keeps everything together.
Yeah, I agree. There's absolutely commonalities and parallels and connections of all kinds. Okay, let's see. So those are really some of the best ones. Here's one from Dude from Texas. Has Dave had a dogman encounter? And what's your theory on this cryptid?
It is real. I don't want one. And I know, and I know where they are in my area. And I purposefully stay out of that area. I have a couple of First Nations elders who've told me a story about them hunting. They were out hunting black bear, and the one raised his rifle, and as he looked through the scope, he was going to drop one. He looked through the scope. He brought his rifle down and said to his brother, "We need to go now." And they realized that it wasn't two black bears, that it was two dogmen standing there watching them.
Yeah.
And if they would have shot at them, they probably wouldn't be alive today.
Right. I agree.
I believe a lot of what First Nation people say, just for the record. You know, they have stories that have been going on for hundreds and thousands of years that have been passed down generation to generation. I think one of the reasons why we haven't solved any of these mysteries is because what I like to call Caucasian Christian science, that if we can't use the five senses, it doesn't exist. Whereas First Nations, they have a lot more open mind, and I believe that they have a lot more answers that we could give them credit for. So I have a lot of respect for First Nations and the elders who pass down those stories. And I have no Native heritage in me, just for the record. Okay. Ukrainian.
I'm Ostahatchee. Yeah. Yeah. My great granny grandma was full-blooded Ostahatchee Indian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you, Dave. All these experiences, are you glad to have them? You know, is this something that you are happy
Yes.
that's happened to you?
I mean, I'm glad that it happened because I've seen things that are extraordinary. I've had experiences that are extraordinary. As I've gotten older, those and become more busy, those experiences have died down quite a bit over the last number of years. I hope one day that they can come back. It's addicting, but there's a real downside to all of this too. I've lost a lot of friends. A lot of people talk behind my back, call me weirdo, and not that I mind. I consider that a compliment, but I have a lot of people who don't want to be around me anymore because I went down there.
I know.
And that's hard. My happily boring life came to an end. I wish I wasn't working 14 hours a day for the last nearly 10 years.
I know the feeling.
I have to keep the bills on. I have to keep the bills paid, and I love doing this show. This show is very good for my mentality and my spiritual being. I don't like the way ufology has gone, especially recently. I've the UAP crowd, I haven't really adopted or warmed up to that.
No,
I'm
there's
still,
precedent, and I absolutely not.
Yeah.
you know, I don't like the governmental side of what's going on. I don't believe in the threat narrative,
Correct.
and it's very difficult. It's a very difficult place to meander now. And so it's been both, Preston.
Yeah, well, I totally understand it. I have all kinds of questions. Do you have any past life recall?
One where the reason why I didn't make it as a fighter, I had two different psychics tell me the same story. The reason why I didn't make it as a fighter pilot this time around is because I was a fighter pilot in World War II.
Wow.
I looked up the name that came to me, and it was weird because when the psychic introduced herself to me, she actually used that first name of Glenn. And it was like
Wow.
Glenn Derringer or something like that. But when I looked up, and I did a brief look a number of years ago, looking for pilots killed in the Battle of Britain, and I never found the name. So I don't know. That kind of threw me for a loop. But according to the two psychics, I was shot down and killed in the Battle of Britain fighting for the British.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Well, have the ETs ever spoken to you or given you any messages, or
Nothing.
have you asked?
To be blunt,
Have you
No.
asked them?
no.
That's why I'm laughing, because no, he had not. They would
Right.
have. Yeah.
Yeah.
They would have answered you.
I never have. Probably should.
Yeah, it might be interesting because they will communicate.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
you had one, like almost an altercation with a gray at one point, right? Because I remember I wrote in one of my Not From Here books, I punched a gray in the face.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. I had, for a lot of us experiencers, we get little snippets, like the scenes that they allow us to have. Sometimes are only about a minute long, if that. And on this one, I remember being taken on craft, and I was kind of standing there dopey, but I could hear them. Here's the weird part. I could hear them talking in English.
Yep.
And I picked my head up, and they were about 5.5 feet. There was one standing right in front of me, and one on my left holding my left wrist, one on my right holding my right wrist, and there was two more on the right of him. And I picked my head up, and all of a sudden I hear one of them say, "OS, he's awake, he's awake, he's awake." And I got my left hand free, and I punched that one. I used to, going back a few pounds ago, I used to be a pretty good fighter. And I hit this gray square in the chest. It felt like that silicone rubber that they do all the body testing on for car accidents. That I don't know what that material is. It almost looks like head cheese, right?
3 fingers or 4 fingers?
I don't recall.
Okay.
All I know is that one in front of me went flying. It hit a dark wall, and I went to turn from the next one, and that's where I went lights out again.
Yep.
All right. Well, here's a question from Gary Reed. Can you talk about Carl and the other ET contact?
Oh, yeah, this is a good one. So Carl showed up at my house while I was doing Spaced Out Radio April 20th, 2015. And I was interviewing a guy about Buddha of all topics. And for some reason, I had this little dinky studio in the front of my house right beside my front door. And I saw movement out the window on my left. I'm thinking, crap, we got friends coming over, and they're going to come to the front door, and they're going to knock or ring the doorbell. And my little chihuahua is going to go nuts. And when she starts barking, there's no stopping her. And so my guest puts his talking after I ask a question. I put my microphone on mute. I turn my chair like this, and my window's maybe 3 feet away. And that's where my eyes focus in on the giant gray head with two black eyes, almond-shaped eyes. But he was very rigid, like he wasn't smooth skin, like he had the cheekbones and around here. And I did what any man would do. I screamed,
Oh,
and I fell back in my chair. I then got back up, and I went out and looked out the window to see him again. He was gone. And if it was a human, I would have been able to see them run off run away. And in the meantime, my guest Harvey, he was just chatting away in my ears and my headphones. So about 3 years later, I now live up here where I do, it's 2018. I now live up here, and I am having a conversation with Olaf Phillips about secret space program or something like that. And I get that feeling that because I nicknamed him Carl, he needed a name. So I nicknamed him Carl. And I ended up feeling that he was around. So after my show, I go up on my patio and I'm like, okay, Carl, where are you? And just like out of the movie Signs, I hear the coming from my backyard and then up my driveway. Like they're having a conversation going on with that. And I listened to that for a while. That was kind of cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I'll go into more, but I know we're running out of time.
Julie Farrell's asking, is that episode in the archives?
Not on the YouTube archives. We were still on Blog Talk Radio back then. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I used to listen to Blog Talk Radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Olaf Phillips one is there. I just don't know where it is.
All right. Well, we still have like 3 minutes. Is there anything else you want to leave people with before we have to start wrapping this up?
Yeah. And I appreciate that. If this is your first time hearing of us, hi, how are you? I'm Dave. Yeah, if you're somebody who isn't, hi, how are you? I'm Dave. And thank you very much for allowing me to share some stories. We got to do this again because I got to get you guys up to date on Flight 21.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a question in chat about that, but just didn't have time to get to all of them. I'd love.
Oh, that's an entire, at least an hour and a half of a show.
Yeah. We could do. I tell you what. Let's take turns. We'll go on your show next, and you come back on ours. Okay. Yeah. We'll do a roundtable that way.
Social media wise, it's Spaced Out Radio everywhere. Look for the owl logo, that one right there.
Yeah.
And yes, much love to you guys. Thank you very much for your time. And I had so much fun with you guys. I rarely get this. You would think I get a lot of these opportunities to actually speak on other podcasts. I don't. I do one maybe every 3, 4, 5 months.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Well, just so you know, notice that we're wearing purple tonight.
I saw that actually. I did.
That was for you.
That
was actually for you.
Here's a little thing. The colors in our logo are there because those are the colors of the Northern Lights.
That's right. Yep.
That's why we go with them.
I did that by pure chance, Dolly. I didn't get the memo. I
did. I knew what I was doing. When I saw purple, I thought you realized that. Well, you saw me wearing purple. Sometimes you'll put on what I have on. Yeah. That's what I thought you did tonight.
I deliberately picked up on it.
Yep.
That was awesome, Dave. Wow.
Just so you know, I watch you more than you know. I don't always come into the chat and say anything, but I know what's going on. I watch your show all the time. I'm up all the time. Yeah.
Your show is awesome. It's one of the best out there.
Yes. And I appreciate both of you guys so much. Thank you.
I want to give a shout out to all you guys out there who came for the show. Thank you so much. Thank you, Namaste, for the chats. And Glenn Anderson, you guys have been incredibly generous tonight. T-Bone and Blind Psychonaut and Gizmo. I'm sorry we didn't get to all your guys' questions, but truly do appreciate the super chats. It's going to help with Dolly's microphone and putting on this show.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you guys. It's been awesome. Can't wait to have Dave back on. Boy, this is one of my favorite shows ever.
I know. And I want you to hang with us, Dave, after we close, because I want to see if we can do dates tonight and figure out when you're coming on again. Okay? All right.
problem.
Everyone, thank you so much for coming to the Light Gate on a Monday night. We really appreciate all of you. We love all of you. This is more fun than I can tell you. The experiences of experiencers are what it really makes this subject roll, because it is the experiencers who can tell the honest retelling of what's going on. The government isn't going to go there with us. And someday maybe we'll go to Congress and have a voice. Anyway, we're coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans.
Christine. Got to say hi to Christine. Sorry.
Okay.
Hi, Chris.
Absolutely. And anyway, so we're in New Orleans, and we got a big old radio tower out there at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM. And we're also the same radio tower, no kidding, out in New Orleans at the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Roku, Facebook, and YouTube. Please come back and see us next week. We'll be ready for you with another fun show. And hopefully Dave will be back in maybe a month. That would be very cool. And we love you. Y'all have a great night and a great week. Namaste. Uh-oh.
You want me to end it, Dolly?
Yes, please. It won't let me.
Okay.
The government's not done with us. No kidding.